mysteries, secrets, and timelines. Starring national media celebrity personalities, psychic medium Karyn Reece, and empath and shaman Tracee Dunblazier. Together, they weave a world of intrigue by making connections, revealing secrets, and answering some of your most pressing questions.
Good afternoon, everybody. We've had a slow, bumpy ride into the airport, but we have arrived. My name. Welcome to the Decoders. My name is Tracee Dunblazier. I'm a spiritual empath and shaman, and I would like to introduce to you someone you probably already know, Miss Karyn Reece.
Well, hello, hello, hello. Nothing. We should take a broomstick instead of the airplane the next time. I'm just saying. All things,
Seriously.
right? It'd be easier, especially this time of the year.
Exactly. It's not like we don't take it everywhere else. So
Exactly, s'il vous plaît. But at least now we're here, we're grounded, and we can have some fun. We always do.
We always do. So, just so you know, the Decoders, we have been working on the concept for this podcast for months. And our goal is to help you decode the mystery. We're going to unlock the mysteries and timelines and all the experiences, multidimensional experiences that we're all having right now. And to bring you a new, fresh perspective and discover things together. So the first thing that we're going to discover is my cat, Charlotte. So just so you know, she pops in now and again. We'll be co-starring.
That's so. I have one every now and again that pops in too. They just love that excitement. They like to add in is what they want to do.
Exactly. So today we have a few topics that we thought that we would talk about. First of all, Karyn, you saw something online that you thought was just so interesting.
Well, it's funny because speaking of timeline, we always think in the kind of worlds that we're in, we're all physically connected, but then we all think about the ethereal realms. Then we think about past, present, future. What we see is what we get, not necessarily. So I actually took this challenge, I'll say today. I was watching something online. And what you do is you take a towel and you put it up to the mirror. Put your hand behind the towel. So you have a towel between your hand and the mirror. I'm not kidding you. It is so much about the matrix and timelines. You can actually see your hand where you shouldn't be able to see it on the side of the mirror. And you're asking, how does that work? It's the craziest thing, but it actually works. I could actually see my thumb, which was hidden by the towel. When I looked at the mirror, you have to go on an angle. And it's almost like the mirror can either see through. And I'm like, well, it's not like a concave mirror. And it was just my bathroom mirror. It is the strangest thing. So how does it actually reflect my hand when it technically shouldn't be able to see it? And it's a pretty powerful thing. And the whole premise behind that was that, our world is not necessarily as, in the dimension we see it, that there are other ways that we see it. Now, it's interesting too, and you and I both know, a lot of times in the past, people would use mirrors to scry, but that was more of a focal point to sort of step you into a certain place. But it's very interesting because mirrors have a whole mysticism, throughout history. Are they gateways?
Absolutely.
Are they doorways into some belief systems? And, we know from ours, are they portholes to other entry, zones, to other timelines? So that in of itself gave me pause to think. It was really kind of cool. So I urge everybody to try this out. You'll be freaked out, but it's actually really cool. And I always try to look at it from like, what is a scientific, what could be explained by it? But there really isn't anything that I can explain.
I think that in the broader sense, I think it's interesting when we talk about perspective, because right now is a time of perspective. The foundation. I was thinking along those lines, not what you physically see, but when you're doing work with a mirror or a scrying mirror. I have one lying around here somewhere, but I think it's in a box, so I'm not going to go dig for it. But they make black obsidian scrying mirror. And I also have this huge, I don't know if you can see it here. See that big ass, there we go. There we go. That crystal ball. So I have a huge crystal ball, and we're working with a mirror, working with a scrying mirror or crystal ball. Uh, the crystal ball itself is not doing the work. What it is doing is
Hmm.
it's connecting your personal connection, third eye. It amplifies your ability
Yep.
to be more deeply reflective and to pick up on other patterns that are in consciousness. Right, so there are many levels of consciousness. We do with the 3D, which is our physical world. We've got our 4D and our 5D, which is our ability to see and hear energy. So being clairsentient, clairvoyant, and clairaudient. That's 4 and
Hmm.
5D. Then when you go onto the 6D, 7D, into the higher dimensions, you are connecting on higher frequencies of telepathic uh,
Hmm.
which means you're receiving this energy, and then it takes time for your brain, your body, all your layers of energy to receive and uh, meld that information together to bring through your own filters to then into our 3D world.
Hmm.
Is those filters, right? So when you're looking at the towel and you got uh, your hands are obscured by the towel, but yet when you look from this perspective, it gets an angle of your thumb, right? There is it's all about the filter in which you're looking, right? And so your example, your experiment exemplifies how a filter is created in the physical world, right? The illusion
Hmm.
that the mirror is reflecting something that it should be obfuscated by the towel, but it's not. Right? That's a filter,
Exactly.
right? So I was thinking about how we make decisions. Like at what point? So I don't know. Like when people, I don't know about you. Are you a quick decision maker? Do you take forever to think about something before you decide to do it, or are you more impulsive and just go, oh, that sounds fun. Yes, let's do that. What kind of person are you?
I would have to say both. Because a lot of
Hmm.
times I can make a quick decision, that's my Aries, but there are times my Libra comes in and I'll take a look at both sides of the coin. So it really depends where I'm shifting. And it depends, because I'm very sensitive to a lot of elements like you are,
Right,
that it just depends. It really, I go
right,
back and I vacillate back and forth. But it's kind of funny
right.
that you should say that. Totally.
No, exactly. So we have like I think when people talk to me or they witness the illusion of a decision being made, it seems like I'm impulsive. But in fact, I have been receiving information probably for weeks or months on that particular topic, and I've been, contemplating what would be the impact of making the decision, who it includes, who it's going to impact, how it's going to impact me, ones I loved, those I don't know, or like, so there is a much wider scope to any decision we make because we are taking in information on the unconscious levels all the time.
That's
And
a very good point.
right, that
Yep.
information that we are taking in, it might appear we're being impulsive, but in fact, we are making a decision based on the unconscious information that we've received up until that point. So then
Hmm.
then it's about like you said, so sometimes you're impulsive, you just act on something, but other times you consciously weigh all options and then make your choice. So the difference is your filter conscious or is it unconscious?
And
So
that actually circles back to your point about timelines, but go on. It's so true.
no, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was gonna at any time, if you have questions, anybody watching, I mean, you've got to watch it live. There'll be times when we'll broadcast it and it won't be live. So get your questions in now because we're live.
Live with the Dead too. But that's a
Mhm.
very interesting point because people do subconsciously intuit information because there is no such thing as time on the other side, like Einstein theorized, right? So we know
Right,
like a lot of scientists are in the underground. Many people don't realize that they were tapping into this Tesla, Einstein, quite a few of them, Thomas Edison. They would
right.
tap into the ethereal realms or the realms above and beyond the physical.
Right.
And a lot of the great, thought leaders or artisans, a lot of what they received was intuitive. And maybe they
Mhm.
received it 6 months prior, then they actually apply it 6 months later without even realizing it, or they overtly tried to reconnect with that. People don't realize it. I mean, we know it in the underground, but it's very
Right.
true.
You know, it's interesting that you say that. I just read an article yesterday on this exact topic. They were talking about Edison and Tesla and connecting to the theta
Mhm.
realm, the theta
Yep.
frequency, and that there was a woman. This article was about this woman who, no matter how much she tried to meditate, how much she wanted, she was a spiritual seeker, and she really wanted to connect to those other realms, but just could not until she went to some Tibetan town and she started working with this particular mala. Basically, it was a particular stone, like a crystal or stone. And I've got a couple of them. This is my zoisite and ruby that I've been working with lately. And also, oops, hold on. Oops, it's all going to go. There we go. And this is my lap.
Ooh, that's beautiful.
This is
Love
lapis
lapis. What a nice
lazuli,
chunk.
right?
Yes.
And so when you work with lapis lazuli, it actually connects you to higher frequency, like the angelic realms of energy. And basically it's a higher
Mhm.
frequency where you aren't your view is not obscured by the creation of something, right? Anytime we talk, like, there's the idea
Mhm.
of wanting something or creating something, but when we actually start into the process of creating, there's obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, because we have to deal with our environment, the realms, what it means. Like, there's all of these things
Mhm.
that we have to learn and move through in order for that creation to happen, right? So the theta realm is the point at which you're just, it's pure creation. You just receive, and you're open to those frequencies of energy that allow you to see a new perspective, a new future, a new experience, a new understanding of things.
So true. And it goes back to the point, thoughts are things, and we're in this matrix, and what we put out has that frequency.
Right.
So what we put out, it's very easy to bring back in. And it's funny because when you look within the frequency of the physical plane, it's a very dense, heavy physical plane, as you just mentioned. There's a strategy, there's a game, there's tactical. So we're being hit with a multitude of different types of senses. You got your physical, you have your non-physical senses, and you're trying to, because you're working with thought energy. Energy is a whole different, it's not a
Right.
physical, it's a frequency. So it's got more penetration needs and more of the
Right.
above. And that's why hypnosis is always good, because you do the beta, alpha, theta, you hit those different levels to get
Mhm.
somebody into that point, which is what Edison used to do to get to that sleepy state, right? He'd put a ball in his
Right.
hand, and then the ball would drop, boom, he'd pop up with some sort of idea,
Right.
which is very interesting. Just like dreams. I mean, how many times our dream states, we're in a whole different kind of, zone, and, we awaken and we may have an idea.
Hmm.
Maybe we were working on something, a problem, the solution is solved.
Absolutely. That happens to me all the time. And so two things that made me, that triggered when you just said that, is that the energy is very different than when Edison was alive. You
Yes,
know,
that's a
in
good point.
we have 7 billion people on the
Mhm.
planet. And certainly on this 3D level, we connect with others who think or feel like we do.
Mhm.
But there are so many multiple levels of energy going on, and 7 billion people to connect to those frequencies, that we no longer are locked in to a few select people. And like, so when you think of like Edison, he was a forerunner in his time. He was a creator, he was an inventor, and all those people locked into his ideas because he was a unicorn amongst some horses and some donkeys. And like, you know what I mean? Like, but he was
Mhm.
he was so unique in that time. And now there are billions of people who are unique. Well, we're all unique, but there isn't just one thought pattern that we are all following, or there is such a much more of an opportunity for you to access and fulfill your highest vibration or your highest dream of how you think things should or can be. And we are in that time of chaos that it's shaking shit up so much. It's shaking things up so much that it's breaking systems down so that we can implement a higher, and when I say higher, a faster frequency that includes everyone, as opposed to excluding many, right?
Mhm.
It's things are having to break down so that we can build them back up. And so I think a lot of people out there are having dreams and different things that are opening them up to new ideas and concepts that they can't make sense of just yet because maybe they haven't found their tribe or the information that can tell them what it is that they're seeing.
Well, and that actually comes full circle too, because what we're accustomed to looking at, we're being exposed to what we could look at, right? We're used to a certain
Mhm.
type of, way about looking at things, right? Stay in your own lane, right? Just, if it's black, it's white. But where this really resides, it's gray. The nice thing too is when you look at all the technologies, you've got video technology and you've got, recordings of evidential um, things and supernatural
Mhm.
forces above and beyond our typical senses. So, being able to say, look, you see a ghost on this one frame, but you can't see it with your own physical eyes. And they also say scientists, which I think is quite interesting. I love science,
Right.
that our eyes are now able to see shades of blue that 100 years ago we couldn't see. Or
Yes.
scientists in Japan have taken like healthy cells and they've transmuted that into music. It's classical, unhealthy cells. It comes out as acid rock. You take people holding, water, they think negative, you freeze it, you look at their jagged little flakes. You take people with happy thoughts, you hold water, you freeze it, and it comes out as happy thoughts. So
Right.
there's so much to be said that we're
Yes.
now starting to see and starting to recognize that there's more to the world than just the linear lane that we've been driving down.
Right.
And then you look at our frequencies too. You got the 5Gs, you got the 3Gs, and you've got, things along those lines that definitely have
Yeah.
a hand in, rewiring some of our electromagnetic systems that we all have, right? So
Mhm.
it's a very
Absolutely.
interesting, yeah. But I gotta tell you though, Trace, this thing was so crazy. I'm telling you, you put your hand on and you could see the back of your hand if you look at a
Uh-huh.
certain angle, even though technically the mirror should be showing you the back of the hand when you have a towel right in front of it. It's the weirdest thing,
Right.
but it goes to show you a whole nother dimension,
Yes.
you know, like how does the mirror? It's not like I have a mirror behind my hand reflecting onto the mirror. That's
Right.
impossible. So I urge everybody, try it out, get back to us, let us know your experience with it. Very, very
Absolutely.
cool.
Absolutely.
No.
So if there was so today's Friday. So have you experienced a particular spiritual theme this week? Like certain ideas or thoughts that have been coming to you?
It's interesting that you should say that because I'm noticing that I've been getting on like social media, people around me, just a whole different, like more positive way of looking, more positive affirmations. Like I just wrote about the number 11 on my Instagram. So like I'm
Mhm.
feeling it. I'm experiencing more and more people in that mindset, which brings to the point like a tricks like. So I'm talking about more positive vibrational characteristics and numbers and whatever angels whatever, and
Right.
I've noticed that's what I've been attracting. I'm thinking about it, so it seems
Mhm.
to be coming into my lane again. So
Nice.
what about you?
So, well, many things. So, I just got this book. It's an older book. This is its 45th anniversary, UFO
Nice.
Contact from the Pleiades, and it's a story. And it's not a story. It's a firsthand account of a man, I believe, in Switzerland, whom some Pleiadian cosmonauts landed in a spacecraft on his property, and they met him, and they came back and forth multiple times and talked to him, and basically, and they wanted him to take pictures of their craft, and basically to let people know that they exist. And I mean, there I've I've been thinking, unlike you, I've been thinking about the end of the world.
Well,
And what's interesting is that this book, the Pleiades, we're talking about. So of course, so the Pleiades are the constellation in the sky. It's called the Seven Sisters, right? Everybody knows that. And they, this particular being was saying that they're about 3,000 years ahead of us. So I mean, they came here, they came here and did that, right? They too have had an earthly experience, and they too, they while they were more technologically advanced than we are, they too ruined the planet.
Imagine that. Dumbasses. Sounds familiar. Just
And
saying.
basically this guy was saying, the difference between us, we see you guys doing the exact same thing we did, but we had an exit strategy. You don't. Like, they had the technology to get off planet, and we don't. We do not yet have that technology.
No, we don't.
And it was interesting. I also saw there was an article about a young lady. I cannot think of her name, but you can Google her and find out her name. She's 23 years old, and they want to send her on a mission to Mars. She wants to be the first person to put her feet on Mars. But the trick is that they have no exit strategy. So they're sending her, and they're going to hope for the best, but she's probably not planning on coming home. And that leaves you with, what? If that is all true, who do you want to be? Like, when you are presented with this existential crisis, this existential concept of, this is it, what now? Who are you? Who do you want to be? Have you been yourself, or have you been following others? Like, are you afraid to move off into this next place? Like that woman, can you imagine what that flight would be like? I mean, she has to be a profoundly, not beyond even brave. You can't even think about, you can't have anxiety and fear. You just have to be balls out.
You think? Yeah.
I am going, I'm going to do this. And I trust that my spirit will be well. You know what I mean? Like, it's a whole other level of trust in our universe. And anyway, so we have. It seems like we have a few people watching, and they're welcome to comment. We haven't had any comments yet, and normally we do. That's interesting. Anyway, but so I leave people with this idea of, if this was your last day, if this was your last week, who are you? What values? What do you value in the face of not being able to continue? What becomes important to you? Because I think that the whole experiment, the whole earthly experiment, is to get us to figure out what we value.
And that's a very interesting point. It's funny because just last night, something popped up. Well, ask your dog. What does your dog value? A couple of bones.
My dog values kibble, and she is ready for it right now.
Can you blame her?
Right? I know.
But it's a good point, though. It's funny because last night I got something that popped up on UFOs. But, it really goes back to, what kind of legacy, too, do you want to leave? You want to come full circle. What do you value? Are you living in the highest and best? What kind of legacy do you want to leave planet Earth? Because at some point we're all going to leave here, one way or the other, right?
Right.
So, what is it that you really want to live? What do you want to learn? How do you learn about yourself? You learn by, looking at, by challenging yourself. You learn like who you are by the grit of life. You learn by your choices. Life is just a continuous, learn. And it brings back to what, to your point,
Right.
Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you want to leave? What's your grit? What's your why?
What's your why?
What's your why? Like Karyn with a why.
Why? Karyn, what's your why?
What's Karyn with a why? Why? Because my parents were not hooked on phonics. Or my last name either, for that matter. But it's really interesting, though. But isn't it funny when you get these like flash moments, like today with the mirror? It sounds idiotic, but when you really take a look at it, it's the coolest thing. It's like, okay, so how does that happen? And what does it really mean? And how does it integrate? It's
Exactly.
funny. In 11th grade, many years ago, I was one of those. I was very smart, but I was very lazy. But I was very smart, so I didn't have to put a lot of study in. And I had to come up with a poem. And actually, I've had a couple poems published, but one of which was called David. And talks about destiny, and at the end, it talks about living in a dreams of living in a neverland. It was like a little poem, David, and each letter you can look it up. But for the longest time, I was stumped. I did it in 20 seconds, and I'm like, I don't know what this means. And at some level, my guides were saying, you'll figure it out. Well, looking at it now, it's all about destiny. What we see is this really an illusion, or
Right.
is this a true physical reality, or is this something that gets, you know, put together?
Right.
So
The
clearly,
two paws, the two
the
paws just
trust,
out there. That is hilarious.
clearly we're big animal lovers, on this platform, but but it does give you pause, no pun intended, to think.
Yes. Yes.
Pause in more ways
Yes,
than
it does.
one. But
Absolutely.
it's interesting. It's very,
Hmm.
very interesting because we take it for granted that we live in this linear type of time zone. But even, again, Einstein and quantum physics, right? They believe in
Hmm.
multiple alternate, realities, which I
Right.
find quantum physics to be, so interesting. And now you can actually see holographic, more in technology, but
Right.
holographic movie stars, right? Like somebody was just telling me Whitney Houston, now you can actually see her performing. They could have a live band and you have a holographic Whitney Houston performing. So you actually see what appears to be really Whitney, but it's her video. So
Yes.
it's just
Yeah, it's
interesting how
deep.
it's arty, it's scientific, but at the same time, it kind of touches in. Maybe there's something more, as we get
Mhm.
closer and closer to those, outer space, those outer, areas. Again, most people are in their own lane, but interesting. So, I mean, given the
It
work that you and I
is.
do, we know about and like how many times in a dream too, when you think about it, that you have a dream and then it's foretelling something about the future or it's solving a problem
Right.
or you
Oh,
get the collective
absolutely. When
consciousness.
I was writing about Andara crystals, and Andaras are basically glass that have been formed mostly near diamond mines, but it's like slag glass, but it has a single molecule gold within wherever it's formed. It has that in it, and it's considered to be a portal to other realms, and that it that paw. Oh. Anyway, so when
Yes.
I was writing in this book, my Your Crystal Allies. This is an Andara. When I was writing, if you can see that
That's
here's a
beautiful.
crystal. And one day, I had this crystal for about 6 months, and then one day, this phantom presented itself. I had if in 6 months
Interesting.
I had never seen that phantom, and then all of a sudden it just shows itself, and I'm like, oh my god! And I've noticed that every single Andara that I have, all have one of those in different places. They're not always in the center. One comes up from the side, and another Andara that I have. Anyway, but working with that, Andaras are known to be the tricksters. Like they are energetically, they appear and disappear. They hop from timeline to timeline. They really do. It's pretty profound. Anyway, but so I there wasn't a lot of research on them as well in the 70s. A few people became really enamored with them, and so really started researching them and channeling about them, because that was really the only form of information. And I was able to find as much information as that there is about them. I was able to find it, and I was getting ready to write the chapter, and every time my mind would literally just go blank.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, I actually went on a retreat. I brought an Andara with me, and I took a nap.
Speaking of
Some
which,
some
yeah.
some said just go to sleep. Don't worry about it. Just take a nap, and I did. And I the whole chapter wrote itself, and I woke up with it in my mind, and then I wrote it, and that was the only way that it happened.
Isn't that something? Now, did you notice that when you would get these phantom appearances, were there any parallels at that point in your life? Were you in a very emotionally charged state? Are there any consistencies, or was it just such random as it came in? The energy just sort of melded for whatever its own
Well,
intelligence, obviously.
yeah, well, so it was definitely, interestingly enough, it definitely was. The Andaras are not emotional crystals. They really are wave riders. They are
Interesting.
connected to intergalactic technology. They're connected to, I'm gonna say 11th, 12th dimensional energies, but they are connected to portals and beings that are certainly not of our world, and we all have access to it, but it takes a whole other level. Like for me, I had to sleep. I while I practice every day, my work has been here, and so in order for me to get there, I had to just let this world go in order to access that. Now I work with them a lot more, and so my energy is very different. So I don't feel as blank in their presence as I did before. But so no, there wasn't anything in particular that I connected with having witnessed it. Other than, interestingly enough, my new deck, the Oracle of the In Between. Um, I created this deck basically on the idea of the in between realms, dawn, dusk, midnight, and noon. In the 24-hour cycle, those are all the in between times. And in those particular times on the planet, they're very unique, and we have an ability to
Hmm. It's true.
connect to energies differently than we do at any other time during the day.
Hmm.
And when I saw that phantom for the first time, it was at dusk. So it was
Oh,
it was it was
interesting.
in the fall, and it was around 4 o'clock, and the sun was setting, and so there was light. It was like golden hour almost, and so there was light that was coming in that hit it in a way that I mean, that was the place that I would sit at that hour all the time. So I'm not sure what was different about this day, but it was definitely at that hour. It was saying, "Hi, come in."
And what woman doesn't like crystals? Just saying, you know? Did you
Exactly.
notice if you were energized? Because I know, like, with various gems and crystals, sometimes I could just feel like a zen, sometimes I get energized. Did it depend
Yes.
on crystal that this was manifesting into? Because you've got that energy combined with, this particular energy?
Yeah. So I'm gonna say, well, so when at first physically it was a little difficult. I felt kind of woozy, like
Oh,
like my
interesting.
like my brain. I mean, it's got a really strong, very subtle, but very deep and powerful energy that you don't. It's kind of like you don't even know. It's like a wave you don't even know is hitting you, because it doesn't. Yeah, it makes everything. Your body has to adjust to its presence. Let me say that your body
Mhm.
really has to adjust to its presence.
Sounds like a former date, just saying as a side note, but, but it but, when you think about it, crystals, I mean, they're used in a myriad of different ways, right? In computer chips and,
Yes.
so it's funny how sometimes people don't recognize or they're not aware of the energy that they really put out.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a new stone that I got, and let me see if I have access to it. Hold on, hold on.
Are you getting stoned without us? Is that what you're
I'm
trying to
totally,
do?
I'm totally getting stoned without you. I don't have it. It's over there, but I have. It's called. What is it called? It is called fluorescent volcanic agate.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful
And I have a
stone.
bunch of these cubes, and you shine a UV light on it, and the what looks like brown and black, and then almost like a kind of a translucent beige color. When you shine the light on it, that translucent beige turns fluorescent green.
Isn't that funny how light can actually change out, or
Mhm.
enhance or expose what really it's made up of or what it is?
Yes, based on the angle and the light, and the chemical. That's the other interesting thing. I was watching this whole thing about the Perseids, um, and they were talking about each color of those meteorites as they fall based on if they are, I can't even think of one of the minerals that they are, but based on whatever the chemical makeup is that of that meteorite is creates its color. And I must have a thing for fluorescent green because one night, well, this is my life. I got up at like 2 in the morning and just wanted to go outside. So I got up and I live in the city, right? So I go out and I'm looking up, but on this particular night, there wasn't a lot of uh, uh, street light, and I saw a green meteorite
Oh, no
just go
way.
pew across the sky.
Wow.
I know that that
That's
split
so
second.
cool.
It was. I was so grateful that they woke me
That
up,
is
whoever
so
they are.
cool. That was meant to be. That is, and green
Uh
is
huh.
your color too, which is so funny. That is like one of the best colors that, totally, works within, your scope.
Exactly.
So, oh, that is so funny. It's so funny how we underestimate, the whole power of all these connections and what they
Right.
do and how you can feel the energy. When they went through, did you feel any kind of vibrational energy, any frequency?
I didn't. No, and there was only one. It was just one meteorite. It wasn't
Wow,
a
that's
whole.
wild.
Yeah, I know. It
And
was
talk about
very.
timing. And that goes
I
back to your
know.
dream state. So somebody's like, "Hey, Trey, go on out. Go take a look at up in the sky. Go take a look at,
Tracee, go now.
run." Yes.
Exactly.
Exactly. But it's so cool how the other side actually works and there's so many different connections when you think about it. When you look at how our
Yeah.
world really is interconnected,
Yeah.
and how many other people had those, thoughts, or how many other people, maybe somebody was driving home and they caught it, you know,
Absolutely.
like the likelihood of seeing something like that, especially a green one, that is so unique.
I know. It was very. It was perfect. I totally needed that, and I needed to connect to something very beyond this. And so that was like, okay, yes, good. Yay. So
Mhm.
go ahead.
I was to say, and to think how many miles and miles and miles away that was in the sky. I always
Yes.
find it fascinating to look up in the stars. There's something about when you look up in the stars and you see some sort of activity, or you just, like how you can appreciate.
Right.
It's just so, it's just beautiful,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it
you
was
know?
pretty profound. So to wrap us up here, what when you're talking about perspective, what kind of ritual or advice do you have for somebody hearing our podcast?
That's a really good question. And I always tell people what you want to do is, I'm a big fan of numbers. So I love numerology. So if you find a number you resonate with,
Mm-hmm.
you may want to have that in your daily, like if you have like a little, like a little stand with a number,
Right.
and maybe you change your numbers up. Like I love to change numbers, although 11 is probably my ultimate favorite. They're two pillars on the way to heaven, the one Gabriel
Right.
works with. It just has a lot of, it's a master number. But I always tell
Right.
people numbers are a great thing to work with because if you want to get instant messages, you could look at a clock and start to see where the numbers are. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I say like a little prayer in the morning, just a little something to the universe. I also put out something, positive.
Right.
So when you put out positive energy, you know that you're going to get it back. So I try
Right.
to stay in that lane and put out an
Right.
affirmation that you want, positive about who you are, something positive that you want to extend out to the universe. So, because what you put
Right.
out is what you get,
Yeah.
and do it in the here and the now as though you
Yeah.
already have it, put a little divine spin on it. You can use candles. I love candles. And the nice thing about candles, do it in your kitchen sink, please. Unless you have a hot fireman nearby, that works
Right.
too. But,
Fireplace.
exactly. And candles just signify because candles help to burn your intention faster. So you can always write your intention down. I
Hmm.
especially like using white candles for purity, black for any blockage of energy, anything negative, any absorption. Red's great because it also activates the intention behind it. You want things to happen faster. So you could write whatever your intention is down. I always circle it and put down with divine guidance or divine energy, our God energy, and then you can
Right.
burn it. So say a few chants. So that's one of the, those are just a couple little things that I do on a
Nice.
day-to-day basis, and just put it to the universe. Keep it simple. You don't need to do it very long. You can do a 2-minute meditation. Too many people think when you meditate you've got to be very in there. I've meditated for years. I mean, I can meditate for 3 hours, but I've done it for a
Right.
long time. But you don't need that. You could do a 5-minute meditation. You could do like a little candle magic, like I just stated, little
Yeah.
or mix it up throughout the week. Go to what
Hmm.
you're attracted to. That's my
Exactly.
suggestion to get what you want, to
Exactly.
manifest.
Hmm.
Manifest. What about you,
Absolutely.
Trace?
Well, I work with, well, so lapis lazuli is my latest favorite. Like, it's so funny.
I
Of
love
course, this is
lapis.
everybody knows this stone, but I can't say that I've avoided it because I like it. It's beautiful, but I've never really worked with it. It's not really interested me. And what was interesting to me, of course, lapis is good for communication, fifth chakra stuff. But the thing that really connected me was that it really helps us connect with our intergalactic beings. It helps us hear at higher frequencies than we would otherwise hear here. So it's not only divine communication, in terms of speech and how we connect with other people, it's communication on other frequencies. And so, um, for me, I like to, instead of meditating in the idea of going to another place, I like to bring whatever is in that place
Mhm.
here into this
Mhm.
realm. I try to integrate it. So, I always like to do some sort of physical activity. Like if I'm getting ready to do a ritual, I always clean first.
Mhm.
That's first and foremost, is to clean the room, clean the space, clean the baseboards, dig into that toilet bowl, like really scrub that kitchen, really get in there and clean your space, to prove to yourself your willingness to receive the thing that you're asking for, whether it's a physical thing or an emotional thing or even just a new perspective. It's like it's
Mhm.
committing to clearing the space to receive that new way of being. So that's what I want to leave people with today is do some cleaning. Now's a great time to clean for the fall. It's going to be spooky season soon, and all you witches out there are going to get so busy. Now's the time.
You got that right. Spiders and more, not my fave, but just say it. But there's so
Exactly.
much truth to it. But it is. It's all about the intention. And you're absolutely right. Opening up the space, the energy
Hmm.
to allow to what you put out, you get back what you want to bring in, you can do so. Magnification is what it is,
Right.
all the
Absolutely.
time. So, well, I'm telling you, Trace, we got our work cut out. I guess this weekend I'll be doing some spring cleaning. How about you?
Yes, I do. I actually have
I
I
actually
have
do too.
reinforcements coming on Sunday. So yay.
It's one of my things. I just actually started cleaning today and I'm getting rid of things. So,
Uh-huh.
stuff.
It feels so good to do that. You need to.
Oh, yeah. You know, in and out, as they say. So, but
Hmm.
anyways, on that note, so next time we'll be doing this, we'll be having a lot of fun. If there's any topics that anybody wants us to, discuss, let us know. And if anybody wants to jump on, make a comment, ask a question, we're all here, dead and alive. There are dead people behind us, by the way.
Absolutely. And so if you want to reach Karyn Reece, you can reach to her, Karyn, www.karynreece.com.
Yep.
And if you want to reach out to me, you can get me at www.traceedunblazier.com or beaslayer.com. And of course, your social medias are at Karyn Reece.
Karyn Reece, but it's spelled Karynreece. Nobody ever gets it right, so I always have to remind people. So,
There you
yeah,
go. And
my parents were
I'm
not hooked on planets or whatever.
you can find me at
Yes.
Go Tracee. And like Karyn said, we definitely want to hear your questions and comments and topics that you think that you'd
Mhm.
like to hear us chat about. And until we see you next time, we're looking at Fridays. We're looking at this time every week, every other week, maybe once a month. We haven't decided yet, but we're hoping to see you on Friday lunchtime. So thanks for tuning in with us today.
Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Mhm.